Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Midweek Model Meet. I am very pleased to say that I am not alone at the start of today. So let me welcome Jeff.
How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing not bad, actually. Not bad for a Wednesday. It's
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
most of the week's over. 2 days to go, and then it's the weekend. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
I'm doing fine. Just working on models like I always do.
Good stuff. So those of you joining who haven't seen Jeff's channel, please go and check it out. What would you say your focus is, Jeff? What do you spend most of your time modeling?
Mostly wheeled vehicles, World War I, World War II. I built a few tanks and that sort of thing, but mostly it's trucks and cars and that type of thing.
I'm just looking here because I think I've got it downstairs. Actually, I'm doing the ICM World War I ammo truck at the moment. The FWD.
Okay,
that's a really nice kit. Very nice kit.
I'm working on the new Das Work Vomag with the 88 millimeter gun on the back.
Ah, right. Wow, that's quite a thing to truck around.
Yeah, it is. Based on a bus chassis.
Really?
It's big.
Oh dear. So yeah, I mean, from my side, I've got a few things I'd like to update people on, but I just want to go back up through the chat and just see who we have in this evening. So David Barber, welcome. Gary T, welcome. Dave, World War II scale model that is. Good evening. John Alec, good evening. Hopefully you'll manage to pop in a little bit later. Who else do we have? Well, Jeff, of course. We have me. I'm there. We've got Stuart. BS1WL. That's I presume, a Bristolian with us. Not too far from me, but maybe not. Who knows? Who else do we have? We've got Richard. Hello, Richard. We've got Gary from Gremlins Modeling Mayhem. Julian, good evening. Stuart, I think taggers. You made it today. Good. And Julian, I mentioned Jim Otcott. Good evening. Aries Styrene. That's a good title. And I think that gets us up to the top. So welcome, everybody, to this middle of the week. Wednesday's always a funny day, so it's good to catch up with people, talk about models. As I say, 3 days of the week. For most of us, maybe somebody... Well, I think John Alex still is working at the moment. He's got a little bit to go. Brian from Got Fuels said he might pop in at one point, and I did want to talk a little bit about the tribute build for Senior. Terry Thacker, for those of you who don't know, aka Hobby Barn. So that group build went live on the 1st of the month. So I did want to talk about that. So we'll just see if Brian pops in a little bit, because he's been instrumental, he and a lot of the community over in the States, for organizing that. Oh, Christian Dal Pozzo does not sound like a Swedish name, I must say. Christian, maybe. The surname doesn't sound very Swedish, but welcome. So Sweden, what are you now? Just an hour ahead, I think. I think everybody's done daylight savings. So, yeah. So I have that little bit. Got a few updates on my modeling bench. I don't, other than that, have a particular topic for this evening. One of the things that I was looking at, let me get his name right. It's Jamie, I think, from Scale Modeling Cafe. Can't be with us this week. I invited him this week, but he's actually with his family in Center Parks, so no excuse, really. I mean, they've got plenty of things to do. Appreciate maybe the internet connection is not that good. So But he'll probably be joining us next week. So looking forward to that. Again, if you've not checked out his channel, go and have a look at it. I've seen it before, but I only really came back to it recently because he mentioned the interview that we had with ICM last week. And YouTube is fairly good about prompting you when people like link you or shout out or do stuff like that. So, of course, there is that to talk about a little bit. Obviously, some of you guys were on the chat after the interview, but the dust has had time to settle a little bit now, or a week from that. So, if anybody has any further thoughts on that, I don't know. Did you see that, Jeff? Did you see the ICM interview? And
I saw the notification for it, but I haven't watched it yet. I will.
So basically, Valeria from ICM was very kind to give an interview. I think she'd already done one with Squadron Hobby in the US, which is the US distributor of ICM. I asked slightly different questions. So, because I had seen the Squadron one, which was very much focused around products and things, and I wanted it to be a little bit more, I guess, personal. But basically, on that, they talked about the way ICM works. It's all under one roof. So I think that was one of the questions a lot of people had is, do they outsource? And they really don't. Only printing of stuff. Design is all in-house. CNC machining of the tools is all in-house. The actual molding of the plastic is in-house. They make paints in-house even. Very much a family business. And one of the suggestions, the questions, was about a 1/48 scale Handley Page Hampton, which probably isn't your bag if you're a wheeled vehicle. It's got wheels,
Yeah,
But they basically saw that comment, went away, had a meeting, decided to do it, got the confirmation the next day. So within 24 hours, basically had pulled the trigger on making a 1/48 scale Hampton. So I think they're a very agile, very young, kind of forward-looking company. And a lot of people have made some suggestions. One of the things Valeria said was that she was really keen to hear people's suggestions about, what do you want them to make? And if they do end up making things that people suggested, they'll supply a copy of the kit to that person. Or I presume to the first person that suggested it.
Sure.
So no getting together, guys, and all saying, right, we all suggest XYZ kit. But the thing is with ICM is that they have quite a broad range of subjects. So a lot of people suggested aircraft. There were a couple of people that suggested vehicles as well, but ICM make a lot of vehicles. They make trucks, they make AFVs, armored cars, tend to be
multiple scales also.
In multiple scales, absolutely. So, if you're a modeler of, civilian stuff as well, they do civilian cars in, again, a variety of scales. They do 1/35th and 1/24th, just off the top of my head. They may do some others as well. Do go ahead. I did link the ICM. I think it's just their general contact details on their website, but I linked the website and everything in the video details on that video. So if you guys have a suggestion, by all means tell us, but tell ICM, tell them directly, because that's your best chance of firstly making an impact, and secondly, maybe earning yourself a free kit. So I love to hear about the, what people are thinking of, but just make sure you're not just telling me. Because I might have done the interview, but I have no further weight with ICM.
I just recently built one of their 25-year-old kits. Was a Soviet bridge layer. Somebody gave it to me. They didn't want to build it with all the individual track links and everything, so I put it together.
How was that? Because
it was fine. It was basic. It didn't have an awful lot of detail to it, but it was nice. I'm happy that I built it.
Yeah, because one of the things that I was saying about, when did ICM start? Really, they think of the new ICM, which is sort of 2000. I can't remember what you said, 2003, around that date. So a bit like pre-Hornby Airfix. I think they kind of look at the ICM of the late 90s, very early 2000s as that sort of prior stuff. I did do their Ghost of Kiev, which is from that time, the MiG-29. And it reminded me very much actually of a Zvezda kit. Zvezda. Yeah. Out the habit of saying Russian words, you see.
Right.
So slightly soft detail. You know, some of the fit, one of the vertical stabilizers, the position of the tab was in completely the wrong place. You had to cut it off, basically realign it. And there's a bit of a seam on the undertakes. So not by any means a bad kit, but if you're used to doing a modern ICM kit and then did that, you'd be like, you know, what's going on?
Yeah. Technology's changed quite a bit, you know. Yeah.
On the flip side, if you were used to that, you know, Ghost of Kiev, you know, 1999, 2000 era ICM kit, and you do a modern one, or you haven't tried one, then definitely go ahead because they're completely different. So I'm just going to take a drink. So this is BrewDog. I'm drinking tonight. This is their amusingly titled Nanny State, so it's 0 alcohol, but it still tastes really good. It's a really good IPA. So I mean, BrewDog beers are generally pretty good, but just for those of you in YouTube, you know, censorship and stuff, I might as well. In fact, it's better than drinking Coke, so less sugar. I love Dr. Pepper. There's a lot. It's kind of, in the UK we would say it's a Marmite drink. So I don't know if you're familiar with Marmite from the US.
I know what it is. I've never tried it.
And people either love it or hate it. It's a digital thing. You don't get very many people that say, yeah, Marmite, it's okay. It's generally like, oh yeah, I love it, or that stuff is sick. How could you?
Definite opinion one way or the other.
Yeah. And Dr. Pepper seems to elicit the same reaction in people.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think it's good. But I haven't seen, I don't think, Diet Dr. Pepper here in the UK. Maybe I've just not looked for it. But
yeah.
I think maybe because the market for Dr. Pepper is much smaller, obviously, than Coke or Pepsi. So, you know, which you can get every version. I mean, it's like,
oh, sure,
like 10 versions of Coke in our local co-op. You know?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Coke with lemon, Coke with lime, Coke with cherry, diet versions, all of those, original, zero caffeine, whatever. Yeah. It all tastes like Coke. World War II scale models. Dave has gifted 10 man's model moments.
Wow.
I don't know why the apostrophe comes out as ampersand hashtag 39 semicolon S. It's just an apostrophe. But anyway, he's gifted 10 man's model moments memberships. So thank you, Dave. That's very much appreciated.
Very nice.
Fantastic shout out there. Also, I see we've got some more regulars in. So scrolling back, we've got Matt, who's just going. We've got Mario, welcome. Flying Dutchman, Dave. Just let me know, Dave, have you received your decals for the tribute build yet? Because they went off last week, and Moss was asking me on Monday if the decals had gone. They all went last week. So anybody who's waiting for decals, if you haven't received them by now, let me know, because you should have. They've all gone out. I think I've got just two left in stock, because I got an initial batch based on people's pre-orders. And obviously they took forever to get here. And then they got stuck in customs.
Of course.
Despite mine and John Alex's best efforts. They're dropping. Okay. As long as you have some sort of notification and they get to you, that is good. Just scrolling up again. So, for those of you who don't know, That's Jeff's channel. You have no excuse. Thank you, John, for
Thanks,
popping
John.
that up. So, taggers, if you've not seen the interview, because ICM have everything under one roof and it's a family business, and this is one of the great advantages of modern companies, right? So, and I'll tell you a little story that some of you may have heard on Monday about Airfix in this regard, but I've worked for a lot of companies which have implemented like Danaher business system, which is based on the Toyota way, and a lot of Japanese practices like Kaizen and Gemba. So Gemba is going to the place where the work is done. That's obviously very much easier if you're all under one roof.
Sure.
So they just gathered everybody together. So they got the designers, they got the production people, the engineers, dispatch people who do the decals. I mean, got them all together, had a meeting. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Following day, got the sign off from the CEO. Boom, that's it. So then it's just a matter of scheduling. It's just when do we put it into a production schedule?
Right.
So the decision is made. It will be being made. The go ahead was in that 24 hours. So that is the advantage of a young, agile, forward-looking company.
Sure.
Do you know Danaher, Jeff? Have you heard of Danaher?
No.
They're a very large American, effectively an umbrella company.
Oh, okay.
You'll have heard of a lot of the companies that they own, but it's one of those that doesn't really like its name to be
right
center. Yeah, but they kind of in the US pioneered the use of all of the Japanese manufacturing principles. That's what they based their business back in. It was a machine shop, a tool shop for garages originally. And they implemented all this stuff, which of course nobody else in America was doing back in the late 70s, I think it was. It's just like, what? And so they just leapt ahead of their competition.
Right.
Anywho. So yeah, it is surprising, or it was surprising. But that kind of leads me to the little story I have about Airfix. So my Hornby rep, because of course Airfix is a brand underneath Hornby. Hornby is the company you're dealing with.
Right.
My rep came in to see me on Friday, and I invited him to buy me a coffee at a local coffee shop. So thank you, Dale, for the coffee. Basically, I mean, I've been in his position, right? I've been a sales rep, not in this industry, but in life sciences, and so I know what it's like. And it's not against him, and I said, I appreciate this isn't you, Mark, but it is the company that you represent. So I'm going to tell you this so that you can feed it back. So hopefully, you get that feedback from your people. Maybe things will change. But you're the worst company of any of my suppliers. You're shocking. Because first of all, I asked him, how's life in Hornby? He's like, oh, it's okay, ticking along. I was like, well, not from my side of things, it's not.
Right.
I asked him what was going on. It's like, oh, nothing, just as normal. It's just like, well, from my side,
always like that,
huh? And obviously the B24 came out last week, new Liberator.
Right.
Some people have pre-ordered it, no notifications. Some people received it. All over the place with pre-orders. I ordered 3 for the shop. No sign of those. I had to ask for my available to ship report. That came, a minimum order, and it's like that sucks because speed is more important than
Right.
I'm like £40 off the minimum order for free postage. It's just like I don't care about the free postage. Just send me the stuff. Charge me.
Yeah.
Just send, because if they don't get there,
you probably got people waiting for them.
Yeah, or in a reasonable amount of time, if people just come into the shop hoping to find the new Liberator and it's not there, they'll go and buy it somewhere else.
Right.
So if they don't come in a certain amount of time, like within a week, I might as well cancel the order. Because I'll just take one. So yeah, I gave him a bit of that and then said, if there was because he was talking about, new toolings and what they're going to do, and they've had a bit of a slow year and stuff. And I'm just like, look, to be honest, I don't care about any of that. I would prefer Airfix to announce that they're not making any new models next year. Fine, do re-releases of stuff, because you've got back catalog stuff that people want and hasn't been released for a while.
Yeah,
re-release all of those, do some Airfix classics and stuff. Don't invest anything in new tools, but just sort your business out.
Right.
Get QC sorted, get your customer care sorted, and get your retail distribution service sorted. Just get it sorted. I'd rather do that than bring out 10 new tools next year and still not be able to get them in time.
Well, and when you are coming out with a new kit, don't announce it 10 months back and then not be able to deliver on it. Wait until it's almost there and then announce it.
Well, and I don't know, do you do much Airfix, Jeff?
A couple. I've got their Flying Fortress right now I'm working on.
And what's been your experience of Airfix kits? Have you had any QC issues, or you been lucky?
No, I've been really lucky. Nice kit. I've only built a couple, 2 or 3 of them. Here in the U.S. they're not that common. But the Flying Fortress is so far fits nice. No problems with parts. Everything's going well.
Yeah. This is one of the things I said to Mark, is the issue I have with Airfix is you design really lovely kits. The Gannet is one of the best kits I've ever built in terms of engineering, in terms of fit and everything. But I had a QC issue with it. It had a great big inclusion in the front of the transparency. So it's no good producing great kits if your QC failure is high. And I hear a lot of people with QC issues. With the new Liberator, a lot of people with misaligned centers of the wheels.
Oh.
The wheels are in the top.
I saw a review and they noticed it in the review. Yeah.
And the rest of the sprue frame is fine. And Nigel was talking Monday about how, if you've got a sprue which is injected, and then it depends whether it's hot or cold molded and stuff, but if it's pulled out of the injection mold before it's completely solidified and sort of twisted to get out, that could have that effect. And it's again another production QC issue. So it's just like getting a new car and finding a scratch on it. Beautiful new car, and then you got a scratch. Just like, do I ignore it? Do I complain? Because then it's going to be 2 weeks to get it sorted. You're going to go to the body shop, and whereas 99.99% of the time, if you buy a new Tamiya kit, it'll be perfect. So that in my experience, and from what people say on the channel and stuff, and I'm sure you'll hear the same sorts of things.
Sure.
Companies get a reputation.
Sure.
I mean, AMT, for instance, have a certain reputation.
Yeah. Roden.
Yeah, exactly. Tacom has a reputation of being excellent kits with plastic denser than a neutron star. So it doesn't. They're anecdotal, but it doesn't come from nowhere. You get enough anecdotal evidence, and it starts to build up. But so what kits do you generally tend to build them? What manufacturers?
I like mini arts. I've built quite a few mini arts. I like Copper State models. I built a few Hobby Boss kits. Just recently, I started building some of the ICM kits, or not ICM, IBG.
Oh yeah,
I had to look up there. They're another small company. They make some nice, inexpensive kits.
Yeah, and again in a range of scales. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I've actually been. So I did a video a few weeks ago about what's the best model company in the world, and went through the various different things about the breadth of range and stuff as knockout rounds. Took 100 companies, got it down to 12, and then put those 12 really through the ringer, like measured everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the same now because people, were like, oh, well, it's not fair on X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing the same thing in categories.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got military models, or military vehicles, I should say,
Right.
aircraft, and civilian vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking it down to those. I'm just going through the AFV, the early stages of the AFV and the aircraft one. IBG came out in their mini art, came out in that. All quite small, quite young companies. They're all like 2017, 2019, within the last 15 years, it's like half of the companies I think are in the last 15 years. And then you have like the old guard, like Revell, Italeri, Academy, I won't say one company that didn't make it because people. I'll wait till the video because people love controversy. But it's interesting to see how many of these, and that's in both the aircraft and the vehicles, right? These, I haven't done the civilian one yet. But these new companies, I say new, the last 20 years. I guess it started in the late 90s or mid to late 90s with companies like Edward, companies coming out of the Czech Republic, out of Poland, now more recently the Ukraine. There are a huge amount of, ex-Warsaw Pact countries. Well, not a huge amount of those countries, but a huge amount of companies from those companies. I think just those three. You've got the Czech Republic, you've got Poland and Ukraine. There's like 60 or 70 companies, with recognizable names.
Yeah.
And on that note,
John,
how are you doing?
John?
Hi, Alex. Hi, Jeff. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you today?
Good.
Thank you.
What are you drinking this evening, John?
Behind me. Cheers. I've just been enjoying wrapping up work and enjoying your conversation. It's so great to have Jeff on your stream there, Alex.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, nobody wants to invite. I think you're. I think really Jeff should be where I am on my screen. I'm in the sort of top left-hand corner. I think Jeff should be there. I should be where he is, and then you there because it's a progression of a beard. I've got a mid-stage here.
I just shaved.
So, what have you been up to this week, John?
Lots of work. I've been busy, really busy with work and editing videos. I've been in this zone for the last couple of months where I've just been building. And finally I got to the point where it's like, Alec, you gotta edit these videos. I was just
get those out there,
huh?
I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I've got a huge backlog. I just every time I go out the door, and I'm reminded of something. If I'm taking something to the shop or something, I'll think of something, and it immediately reminds me. I've got this video, that video, and that video that I have to do. These people are waiting for this. Whether it's a company that I've agreed to do something with, or follow up to something like the F-15 build, whatever it is. It's just like I'm just like, where did this time go? Because editing takes a lot, right?
Yeah, it does.
Probably the most amount of time of the entire process.
Yeah.
Well,
or at least it feels
your
that way.
videos look so professional that I'm sure you spend a lot of time polishing them.
Yeah. So I got a few out this week, and I've got. The F-15 videos, it's done. I'm just waiting for the others in the Discord group build to, I think Matt was talking about that in the group, and then I've got the third episode of the Stuka. It's all edited. I just need to go through and write a narration and record it and get that out. So
yeah, you're one of the reasons I didn't do as much editing as I wanted to today, John. I got my breakfast this morning and I saw the episode 2 there, and I was like, well, just watch this one. I had my breakfast. Looks really nice though. Those 3D decals that Nigel sent, just kind of like the cherry on the cake.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it looked good.
Oh, yeah.
And then you put those on, and it's just like they kind of made those little dials pop like the ones on the side that you've done with the blue.
Yeah.
And you put those in, and it's just like, wow. Yeah. So
yeah, that was just a fantastic, just out of the blue gift. And I'm glad I got to use them.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm envious. It kind of reminded me as well of the in my rose tinted glasses, right? Of the Airfix 124 Stuka that I had as a birthday gift when I was maybe like 10 or 11 or something. In my mind's eye, that's kind of how it looked. It didn't, of course. It did make me, I don't know. The problem I have, I don't know about you guys, but if I watch a build video of somebody else's, I immediately want to build that kit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. And it's just like, I've got too many things to finish already.
Right.
Yeah. I get up in the morning and I have a plan in mind, and I turn on YouTube and there's 4 or 5 videos, and
Oh, yeah.
I lose hours.
Yeah. You just get sucked in.
As a rule, I try not to watch other channels. So I'll do it for like immediate group people, to support them because I'm interested in stuff. But generally, I try and avoid it because I don't kind of want to. I don't know, feel like I'm stealing ideas in a way,
Right?
Because I know that I'll think of something 2 weeks ago, and it'll be because I've watched like videos and stuff, and it was a nice idea, and also because it is a sinkhole. Because I know, like an addict, I can't trust myself.
Yeah. There's no way you can keep up. There's just so many thousands out there that you just can't do it.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Okay, I'm just looking at.
Yeah, I think we all do our best to try to support other channels.
Oh, sure.
That are in our circles and stuff. Just to drop a like, drop a comment,
right?
Something like that. Have them on in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, I watch a lot of them while I'm doing something else.
Do you know what I prefer is listening. So I used to listen to a lot of podcasts when I was traveling a lot more, because obviously you're on a 2, 3, 4 hour flight. You get a playlist of podcasts of an hour, a couple of hours each. It just makes the time go a lot. Although I can't generally sleep on planes unless I'm listening to a podcast, in which case I'll go. So I end up listening to the same thing like 3 or 4 times. And it needs to get my money worth out of Spotify.
Sure.
Just looking over here. So Jim mentioned the Lysander, the ferry battle, and the Fulmar. All great British aviation subjects that new Airfix tooling would make for great models with a 72nd of 48th. Yeah, they would.
Lysander, yeah.
I think so. I know Special Hobby have done a Fulmar fairly recently, and if you haven't checked out, so one of the things that I kind of took from that, who's the best model company video, is not the end result, not the process of it, but just how many really good companies there are out there now who have really upped their game, and Special Hobby is one of them. If you're used to Special Hobby of the 1990s or early 2000s, try one of their recent kits, because their instructions are fantastic. The actual plastic is amazing. They usually have like etched brass belts and stuff in there. Really, really nice kits. And they're pretty cost effective, at least in Europe. I don't know about the US. You guys probably pay 3 times as much or something.
Yeah, that's the way it works. All the postage and everything.
You get your Tamiya kits cheaper, so
right.
Yeah, we do. Pretty much the only thing I can get at my local shop, because I do like to go in there like once a month just to see what they got and support them. They're our only brick and mortar shop in Frederick, greater Frederick area. There's like, you know, 250,000 people here. There's one hobby shop.
Yeah.
So it's you know, little Airfix or the Tamiya kits they're the kits that you can pick up for less than $10. The only ones, you know, little figure sets or, you know, that 75 millimeter, that Pack 40 gun, that kind of thing. Yeah.
But actually, I mean, even in, I mean, I say you guys get them cheaper. I don't think the discrepancy between what you guys pay and what we pay is actually that much for Tamiya. Because Tamiya tend to price on the age of the tool. So the new tools are expensive.
Right.
But as they age, they don't like inflate those prices. So like the Panzer II is the great example, right? It's like £10 here. I guess it's what, $12 or something over there?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. You know, whereas if you're going to get the Achilles, the recent Achilles, you'll be paying like 45, you know, same as a mini art kit. But you know, in 5 years' time, it won't be that.
Right.
So I sell the, so I really kind of, this came to me when I was getting the stock for the shop, because I've got 48 scale Tamiya kits, which are cheaper than 1/72 scale Airfix kits. You know, like I think the Corsair, the 48 scale Corsair, which is a lovely kit, it's like, I don't know, like £14 or $12.50 or something for 48 scale. And you know, comparably sized aircraft in 72nd scale is probably the Mosquito from Airfix, which is what, 22. So yeah, I think it's an interesting strategy they have, and I mean, it works, right?
Sure.
They seem to be doing well.
So I don't know what your opinion of Dr. Pepper is,
huh?
Alec, but we've had a few comments on soft drinks.
So I
Cherry
love
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely can. Jeff is drinking some. There's the proof.
Yeah, I haven't had a regular. I can tell immediately if something is regular soda, because I've been drinking it for so long. You know, even in the 80s, my mom would get diet soda, diet pop, and it's so sweet. I can't drink regular soda. It's too sweet.
Yeah. My wife
nobody should drink regular soda.
Yeah, my wife drinks regular Pepsi, and I can't hardly touch it. It's just too sweet.
I used to drink as a child and an adolescent. I used to drink like regular Coke. I hated Pepsi. I still don't like Pepsi.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like it. I prefer Coke. I prefer the taste. And I was dead set against diet Coke. I was just like, no. Until, and I had to hold by it, you know, when I went to university, there was somebody on the street, there was some Coke promotion thing, and they were doing a blind taste challenge. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll have a go at that. And blind tasting, I preferred the taste of the diet. And I'm just like, well, I can't really be hypocritical.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, that's what my body says. Then, you know, it's a mental thing that you know, I was drinking the sugar stuff before. So I'm like, yeah, okay. And so I switched. I never drank sugared stuff since.
And it's not like I don't have a sweet tooth. I mean, you know, you give me brownies and ice cream.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. I got a terrible sweet tooth. Kinney, a Maltese drink. Yeah, that's interesting. So Phil, what is Kinney? What does it taste like?
Never heard of that.
No. Okay. Matt, yeah, Dave was a titan there, giving those free memberships. Thank you, Dave. Oh, Brian, good evening. You're welcome to drop in if you have time. I know it's Brian works some ridiculous hours that I refuse to believe those hours actually exist in the day. They are way too early.
I used to work in the newspaper industry. I know what early morning hours are.
I think there are some hours of the day, Jeff, that should only be approached from the night. 3 a.m. is one of them. I've had to get up at 3 a.m. to catch early morning flights before. It's not pretty. I mean, it's not pretty when you approach it from the night side either, usually. But you can't remember that. So it's not bad. Sorry, I scrolled quite a bit back here. Craig, welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Just scrolling down. Well, I'm glad that people, if I can generate a little bit of interest in ICM, I think, ICM have been very good. I think for me personally, they've supported me in the channel, given me review stuff, and I think if I can share that out a bit, that's poorly coded HTML. Yes. Who would have thought that StreamYard / YouTube would do poor coding? Yeah. There was a bit of a debacle last week, as I'm sure some of you remember, that apparently, well, YouTube and StreamYard, of course, tried to blame each other for it, but something had changed in the API between the two, linking the sites, so they couldn't talk to each other for live streams, which lasted for about 2.5 hours. So we had to get the ICM interviewer out in YouTube Premiere and then come back to StreamYard. But hey,
yeah, YouTube only makes $28 billion a year, right?
Yeah, they can't invest in proper coding. Yeah. Ryan, thank you very much. That's great. So I'd asked for a couple of pictures just for tribute build.
Nice.
So because I did look online, but sometimes what you can pick up online isn't terribly great. I'd rather have a reasonable one.
Some originals, yeah.
Low quality images.
So taggers, yes, I would agree. I did mention this in the video I did. 10 things to fix. 10 top things to fix about Airfix or something like that. It's have a look at my channel, it's on there somewhere. And I tried to approach it as I spoke to Mark on Friday. I said I'm telling you all of this stuff as a business person, not as somebody who's a modeler, not as somebody who owns a model shop. I said if you called me in for a consultation, which I'd love them to do, these are the things I'll be telling you, and it wouldn't be, make XYZ new model or whatever. It would be shaking up your systems, getting your. They don't have a web portal for ordering for retailers. But fundamentally, even before that, they need to know what their strategy is.
Right.
Because at the moment they're competing with their distribution network quite actively. It's like. Just decide what you want to do. Do you want a distribution network or do you just want to go direct? Going direct is fine. It's quite short term. It means you have to have a pretty robust system in place, which they don't.
Yeah.
Distribution also fine, smaller margins, but you have greater capacity to expand. Particularly internationally. I think international distribution for them is good. Like you said, Jeff, Airfix are quite rare in the States.
Yeah.
It's a vast market. It's the same with Europe, actually. I mean, Europe, I think, is an underutilized market for Airfix. it's the biggest market in the world for modelers. The second biggest is the US. You know,
yeah.
Well, why are they trying to appeal just to the UK?
I don't know.
That's how it feels, right?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of places I order from that just don't handle them.
Yep.
Either they don't want to handle them, or Airfix just isn't interested in working with them.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate, you know?
Yep. I mean, it's, I mean, I said to them, you know, basically, I went into my shop as a true believer in Airfix. Right? I invested more in Airfix kits than any other manufacturer when I started. Let's see, what am I? 7 months down the line, I'm trying to minimize the amount of Airfix stock I carry. I mean, that is not a good turnaround.
No.
Company.
Yeah.
I said, Revell, on the other hand, are one of the easiest companies to work for, but not to work with.
Right.
I didn't have to put very much through their business in order for them to give me extra discount,
right,
an automatic credit system. And it's like, you know, that's why everywhere in his dog sells Revell kits, right?
Yeah.
That's why toy shops sell Revell kits, because they can make a decent margin. They supply them well. They treat them well. The advantage of a model shop is at least it knows what to sell.
Right.
So it can avoid the dogs in the catalog.
Right.
A toy shop can't do that.
Right.
So that's Revell's weakness, is that they'll sell anything to anybody.
Right.
So it's like, I'd love to sell more Airfix, but you're just not making it easy for me, guys. You know? So yeah, I do agree. You know, they are very archaic in the way that they approach things. And it's funny how many big companies get stuck in those, you know, old habits.
Right. That's the way we've always done it, and that's okay.
And it's like, oh, if we had to change it, we'd have to change it across the whole system, across Hornby and Scale Electric. It's like, well, guess what? The improvements you get in Airfix, if you're improving Hornby, would be across the board as well.
Right.
So that's not an excuse.
Right.
Yeah, dear. That's an interesting one. Dragon armor kits have a reputation for warped parts. Interesting. I've never had a warped part from Dragon, but I have had a lot of problems with Dragon kits. So the first Dragon kits I got, and a lot of the ones I built since, look beautiful. Beautiful engraving, great detail. But it's like the parts were designed by different people in different factories. You know? Like they were made by Boeing. They just don't fit. Too soon?
A guy in front of Congress today.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, that Boeing thing got dark quickly, though, didn't it? That guy who committed suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody sees that for what it is. You know, what people are not that stupid. You know, yeah. The statistical probability that happened by chance.
Yeah. But that's bad, right? That people, even if it was right, even though there were no signs, you know, people who knew him said there were no signs. He's done the whistleblowing. It's just like he's taken his stand and stuff. It's just like, if he was going to commit suicide, it would probably been before that, right? Because of the guilt and all that sort of stuff. But even assuming, right, he did commit suicide, and my thoughts go to his family because it's awful, whatever. But even if he did, how bad is it that the reaction from like America in general is that's as sus as hell? They probably had him like off. It's like the fact that you can automatically think that, you know, in a country that's not Russia,
Yeah,
that's ostensibly free. You know, you think, you know, how much power are we giving these corporations?
way too much.
Yeah. Way.
Oh, the FX 124 Stuka was a good kit. They finally got rid of that blue spongy plastic. We remember that blue spongy plastic.
Terry at Little History just did that 124th.
Oh, did he?
That classic. Yeah. He loved it. He kept saying it's probably the funnest build that he's done in a really long time. That he enjoyed it just tremendously.
You see, Airfix
classic.
I just don't. You see, I saw that announcement when they did that last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, last year.
And I just thought it's like it's not cheap, right? It's like 90 odd pounds, something, or 100 pounds or something. And it's like the trumpeter kits are like 120.
Right. That's what I got from you.
And they're modern toolings. And as much as I am probably the target audience for that Stuka kit, right? My dad bought it as I can't remember, I think it was a Christmas present, not a birthday present, but at that very impressionable age of like 10 or 11, we built it together. We took our time. I mean, he did most of the building, right? Certainly most of the painting.
You supervised.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you what bits I wanted to do next. I probably glued the bomb, it hung from my bedroom ceiling until I was like 18, and regularly fell off because it weighed a ton. And yet I look at it and think that's the only reason I'd be building it, right? Is for that memory. I even got that memory from watching John Alex's video on of a completely different model of Stuka from a different manufacturer, and I wasn't even building it. So, do I need to spend £100 to get that? It's like,
maybe not.
Yeah. It's just like there's a lot I could spend £100 out. That's how much it takes for me to have my car for the month.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
So yeah. Academy does produce some very good kits. Like any manufacturer, it has some stinkers in there too. But I've always liked Academy kits.
Yeah.
Was the A10 you did?
Yep.
Academy wasn't it?
That's right, Alex. Yeah. And that was a new tooling, and last year, fabulous kit. Loved that kit. The instructions are. Are a bit, you want a little bit more in your instructions, but the quality, man, it had slide molded parts. It was just great, and I did that Academy, the PBY, the Academy. Great kit. Very simple kit. It was great. Yeah. So I'm the same. I like Academy as well.
Yeah. I've got a Stuart Honey Academy kit that actually is boxed as Airfix.
Yeah. Those Academy kits, I think I've got. I mean, I've got all of them, I think, in the shop, but the ones I've actually got for myself are I've got the Hetzer, the 38, is it 38T or the 35T, whichever one, the Czech one. I got the whichever American howitzer one, the M105 maybe. But I got those, and like the Tiger and the Panther, obviously. They're great kits. They're really nice kits. I think the oldest one of them is, I think the King Tiger is one of the older ones of them. One of the Tigers is. But most of them are pretty recent kits. The fit on them is good. The part count is, a good balance between complexity and ease of build. I don't have any problem with them, Does hard but not brittle plastic mean less ejector marks as there's less chance of damaging the plastic? That is a complex question.
That would be an ecumenical matter.
Yeah, so there are two types of injection molding. Nigel could actually probably tell you a lot more about this because he used to work at a company that did that. But there's hot molding and cold molding. So one where the mold is kept hot, one where it isn't. So Lego bricks are injection molded.
Right.
For instance, they're made of ABS, not styrene. It's the plastic. It depends. So there's the plastic, the actual composition of the plastic, the type of molding. So the plastic being, hard or soft, it is one part, but like how long it has to cool. So what's your injection molding cycle? The design of your mold.
Right.
Where are your injector pins? How big are your injector pins? A small ejector pin is going to exert more pressure if you have more of them, because you've got to think you're pushing the things apart. You want to push it out. So how many ejector pins you have and how big they are determines the pressure that's pushing. The higher the pressure, you've got more chance of damaging the plastic. Obviously, the hotter the plastic, the softer it is, the more chance of damaging it. By damaging, I take it we're meaning.
Yeah, leaving a dent.
But, of course, a smaller ejector pin diameter might have a higher pressure, but it's going to leave a smaller impression. So
it's complex.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot.
Right.
Jeff, I'm really enjoying your new modeling space there. It's
thank
really
you.
Roomy and open, and
it looks a lot more organized than mine, I can tell you. That's why I'm in this room and not in my modeling shed.
I'm actually setting up another room in my basement.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be putting 3D printer and my lathe and my milling machine and some other stuff down there.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Try and make that more of a work.
A couple months ago, right? 2 or 3 months ago.
What's that?
You just redid your modeling space there.
This has been 6 or 7 months I've been in this. This is actually our living room, but we never use it as a living room. So
time flies, man.
I was in a bedroom, and I quickly outgrew that. So I'm in the living room here, and the bedroom that I was in, where we've got a television and recliners and stuff in there if we want to watch television. But I've got, a full-size basement, and I've got some rooms down there that are just basically storage.
Cool.
So I'm going to take one of those over and put benches in there and set up some stuff down there.
I'm very envious of most US homes, because most of your homes have basements, right?
Yeah.
Not all of them, but in this area, there's quite a few that do.
I guess it depends on the age, right?
Yeah, this house was actually built in 1960, and it was an option. The house right next door has the same upstairs floor plan, but it has no basement.
Really?
This one has a basement, and the one next door, the other way, has a basement. So it just kind of depends, on what the person buying it wanted. But
you see, ours, it's generally, if you have a basement or a cellar, I guess we would generally call it.
Right.
They tend to be older houses. New builds, it's too expensive, right?
Right.
Because you have to dig, and
right.
you have to mess with foundations and stuff. And they just want to churn out houses as cheap as possible, and sell them as expensive as possible, right? Which is the same everywhere. But of course, we have brick houses exclusively. We don't really use timber framed houses at all, which is a lot more common in the US, of course. So yeah, I've had the house that that is entangled in my divorce settlement at the moment has a cellar. We didn't know it had a cellar when we bought it. We found it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
Yeah, we were invited to drinks at our next door neighbours, and we got chatting with them, and we ended up quite good friends. But they said, "Oh, have you found the cellar yet?" And I was like, "No, we went away." And they're like, "Oh, apparently it did. It used to have a cellar." They thought at one point it might have been filled in with rubble when they were doing something. And they told us where it was. And where it was where we had actually we had a little stand-up piano. So daughter was learning piano and she could play on that. And where it was, we managed to move the piano into the study. And there was basically a sheet of like plywood, like MDF sort of stuff across the whole area. And we lifted it up and there's a trapdoor underneath. So we did that, complete empty cellar.
Had stairs and everything to go down.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
I mean, it was tight. It was an old coal cellar.
Right.
From when, and there was a grill outside. But
for dumping the coal down.
Yeah, it could have been like a drain or something, but when you actually cleared up, looked at it from below, you could see the chute and everything. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, what I like about basements is I live in the southern Colorado, and it gets really hot here, and the basement's a great place to be.
Oh yeah,
when it's hot out, that basement always stays nice and cool.
Ours too.
Just see a question from your OT. Sorry to drag you back to basics. No need to apologize. And any questions in our little midweek model meets? Do you guys prime parts on the sprue or prime them individually as you need them?
Individually as I need them.
Yeah, I'd say 90%.
Yeah, if they're very tiny, maybe on the sprue.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've done anything on the sprue recently. Generally, the only time I prime something on the sprue is where the injection gate is actually at a part that doesn't need painting.
Right.
So if I took it off and then I used a pair of clips to hold it while I was painting it, it would probably obscure more.
Right.
So what I tend to do is clip the sprue so I've got the sprue to hold it.
Right.
So it's not really on the sprue anymore. It's just, it kind of technically is, but I've cut a chunk of the sprue off to support it.
Right.
That's kind of the only time I do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know some people like to take parts on the sprue, but
I do like with real tiny grab handles and things. I'll cut them and leave a bit of sprue so I can hang on to them. Then I'll glue them on and then cut the sprue off.
Yeah,
makes it a little easier to work with.
Yeah, it becomes a function of your part prep, right? So if you're going to prime and then still have to do part prep, getting rid of seams or getting rid of the sprue gate or whatever, then you might as well just go ahead and cut it off and clean it up and then prime it. Yeah.
No point in priming and then sanding most of it off.
Yeah. I mean, this part here, this is a steering wheel for that Lotus that I'm doing. So that is off the sprue, but it has like a junction piece. I should use my other camera, but it's only to show this. That actually attaches to another piece. So there it's easy to cut it off and then hold it like that. If that had attached to the sprue through that, it didn't. It was like held across here. But if it had attached just at the back here where this clip is, I would have left that on, cut the sprue off kind of there, and then use that sprue to hold it. But that's kind of the only time. Because as Jeff said, this needed cleaning up around here on the edge of the steering wheel because of where it was attached, I think. So yeah, if you've got to clean it up, there's no point anyway.
James says empty cellar with a pentagram on the floor.
Hey James, how did you know?
it kind of was a little bit like that. You never quite know what you're going to get with a. I mean, our house, that house, it didn't have foundations, right?
Just sitting on rocks, or
no, it's like 300 years old. It's
oh wow.
I think I've gone through the last 20 or 30 years buying houses that each one has to be older than the last one I bought. This current one's like I don't know, like 350 to 400. Not quite sure because records obviously get a bit.
Our country isn't even.
Yeah, we don't have anything nearly that old here.
Yeah.
Our home.
Well, this is a thatch
might, but there'd be like adobes.
This is 23 years old.
There was a lot of structures.
Kids are older than my house,
Yeah,
right?
1,000 years old around here that were made out of mud.
Well, as I say, this is a thatched cottage, so it doesn't have a weighty roof. It has straw, or reeds.
Right.
Very, very expensive reeds.
Oh, I bet. That's probably getting to be quite an art, a very expensive art to have a roof thatched.
Yeah, rarity. That's the issue, isn't it?
So James Taboldigo brings up a good point. That is one time where I'll leave them on the sprue, because typically on road wheels, especially for something like a Tiger 4, where there's 8 times 2 times 2, the sprue gates are right on the edge, the rim. And you can just prime or whatever, and normally you can, especially if you have a single blade cutter, you can get pretty close, and you can cut those off and just kind of touch them up a little bit. Otherwise, you're handling 32 of these road wheels plus all the spares that go on the tank, right? So you're looking at like at least 40 of these things,
right?
So, and then the Tiger, so each one is 2, and then there's what, 10 or something? Yeah. So
so that's a really good point, because the rubber, usually until the later ones, like the Jagdpanther, not the Jagdpanther, the Jagdpanzer 4L70, which had steel front wheels,
right?
Ground pressure was so high. But most of them have rubber road wheels, so you've got to paint those separately anyway. So it doesn't matter, right, for cleaning up. Let's see. John Parker has just popped by. Hello.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to drop in, John, if you wish. If not tonight, at any other Wednesday. I just saw a question. I had to scroll past it because I was just trying to find your other bit. I still haven't found a way to make you guys mods on this, but I'll get there eventually.
No worries.
Question. Here we go. Anyone here watch the Aussies at the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum?
Oh yeah.
Restoration work.
I've
got a customer, actually, a good customer that comes in who watches that a lot.
They can really turn a lot of junk into some nice stuff.
It's a really good channel.
Yeah, it is.
It almost seems a little random, but we're all sub to it, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have the only what was the German World War I tank? The AV7. They have the only actual AV7 from World War I is in Australia. The one at the at Bovington is a replica.
I'm
always amazed at how these things are, how they still keep finding, in an old ditch or in, some old barn. That was an old Panzer IV or, Hetzer or something.
They do come up with a lot of parts.
Here's a good question for you guys. Does the Anglo-centric Airfix range turn off US modelers? I wouldn't buy Airfix when their Spitfire collection alone has twice as many kits as their whole USA range.
No, it doesn't, because there's such a plethora of US centric kits from other manufacturers. So Airfix is kind of the place to go if you want some British, centric kits. So it's good because, that American market, it's kind of crushed. So, to me, it puts out a lot of stuff. Monogram and Revell used to.
Well, Revell still do Monogram's old kit. So.
So no, not at all. It's that 124 Spitfire that I did. It was great. I'd never done a Spitfire. It's probably the most iconic British plane outside the Lancaster. And it's molded there in the UK. So it was good. It's a good question. But yeah, no.
How about you, Jeff?
I really don't build that many planes. I generally go for the subject more than I do who makes it. Yeah. If there's a certain subject I like, I look around and I kind of find the one that I like the best. I don't really pay a lot of attention to whose name is on the box.
Yeah, they've not done an awful lot of wheeled. Well, actually, they don't do an awful lot of armor or military subjects in general. They've started increasing the cars they do. They've kind of had a bit of a history of car modeling. But most of that armor is the old vintage classics, the old 76 scale, like the Matador and EC and that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, I get frustrated with it as a Brit. Again, putting on my business hat, because I put on different hats, and if I were sitting in a Hornby business meeting talking about Airfix, I probably wouldn't go to US subjects as much, to be honest. Again, I would turn to Europe because Europe is closer, so it's got harder with Brexit because, of course, trade used to be very much easier when we were all part of the European Union, and we made the stupid choice of leaving it, which made trade harder. But it's still easier than with the US, because you've got transatlantic trade by its very nature is going to be harder when we can just ship it across the English Channel. And the thing is, a lot of British subjects, were also used in European countries or co-developed with European countries. So you have a huge, almost indigenous market. The Jaguar, developed with France, iconic British aircraft, also an iconic French aircraft. So it's also used in other air forces, like, a lot of French exports to things like Chad and stuff. The Tornado, used by Italy, used by Germany, used by us, exported to, the Middle East and things. Long service life. Again, very iconic, used in, actually saw quite a bit of combat. So there are kind of a lot of subjects that you don't have to abandon the whole British thing entirely, but you can merge into that European market and appeal to that, again, one of the largest markets in the world in modeling, not too far from home. So I get that the US is a sort of more crowded kind of space, because F-16s and F-15s and F-14s, everybody's done them things. But having said that, if Airfix came out and did a, I don't know, say a 148th F-14, I think that would sell. The F-14 is a pretty nice aircraft. If it's of the same quality as, say, the Gannet, and the same price as, say, the Buccaneer, it's a big aircraft. Tamiya's version is quite a lot more expensive. It's another 20 or 30 pounds. So, the value proposition then, again, provided that they can still keep that in the US, because, again, I come back to my prior point, they need to sort their bloody business model out, because it's no good, Dale has said this, they do for a price point and stuff, which is fine. That value proposition is designed, the model and everything is designed for that price point, which is great. But if that price point then changes by 20, 30, 40% in other markets, no wonder you're not competing, right? So I get frustrated about it as a Brit.
Sure.
I get that, you think, oh, well, Airfix is the company to go for that. But then that's typecasting, isn't it? Then they're putting themselves in a little box. It's like an actor that only does sci-fi or comedy, then trying to break out becomes much harder for them. So, anywho. Rant over. I am way behind in the chat, guys, so apologize for that. I only just got to the pentagram one.
That's funny.
Victorian townhouse. There we go. So yeah, I think actually the house that I was talking about before, the basement was probably a Victorian addition to the house.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. So you see that fireplace back there?
Yeah.
Well, that is the chimney. So where I'm sitting at the moment, when the house was originally built, this would have been the loft. There were no stairs. It was just a single story. Yeah, and this would have just been void. So that is a recent addition.
Recent by a few hundred years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. I'll be in a Flintstone cave before long. Well, probably one way or the other. Yeah, mud hut. I don't think there are too many mud huts that have survived that long. Fingers crossed, anyway. That's cool, though. Old model shop in Sussex was a 14th century building. Wow.
Wow.
The one of the oldest buildings I've been to that qualifies as kind of a building. You see, I'm from a place called Lincoln in the UK, which is in Lincolnshire, which was Bomber County in World War II. That's where a lot of the bombing raids went from. There's an awful lot of airfields in, and that's where the Vulcans was stationed over near us. The Red Arrows used to be stationed around us as well. So we kind of have all of that history. I can't remember where I was going with that thread. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Oh yeah, sorry, the oldest building. So our cathedral in Lincoln was built after the Norman conquest, so it dates back to the 11th century.
Wow.
It took 1,000. It took bloody ages to build it. And it burnt. It's one of those things where there was an earthquake and it fell down. And they rebuilt it, and there was a couple of fires and towers fell off, and they didn't bother with the pointy bits. They just kept all of that stuff. But then I went to university in the northeast, and there's a church there which it dates back to, I think it was 694.
Oh my God!
Wow.
It's just like parts of it, not all of it, obviously. But yeah.
I can't even imagine something that old.
It's like cave art in the Southwest, right?
Well, I guess we have Stonehenge up the road. That's a bit older.
Yes.
Doesn't really count as a building, though, does it? Yeah. Yes, they built it, but
it's a structure.
Yeah. The not so impressive Woodhenge, which of course is just they show you where all the post holes were.
Right.
That hasn't survived. Anywho, I'm with you, John. I love the Hetzer, which technically isn't the Hetzer.
Correct. It's so I do have the I have the Airfix. Yes, dear. Absolutely. And the Airfix 135th Hetzer, I'm going to build that for the second time. Yeah.
It's just such a. I've done a couple of 172nd ones, and they just fit in your hand. They're just like tiny little, like a big beetle. So US-UK transatlantic trade has to run the U-boat gauntlet.
U-boat still, huh?
I don't think we've quite got there yet. But you never know.
I was just taking a look. You're talking about the age of buildings and things. There's a place here in Colorado. They call it Mesa Verde.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's an Indian, a Native American settlement.
Yeah.
And it was established in 550 and was occupied till 1300.
Wow.
It's been rebuilt. It's not occupied anymore. It's more or less just a museum, heritage place, but it's a huge group of buildings.
Well, that sounds cool.
Mesa Verde? Yeah, it is. It's a national park.
Julian, yes, I did see that email. I haven't had a proper chance to look at all the stats in there. But, I mean, stats and impressions are often at odds with each other, right? And I think it's also kind of where you feel the focus is of a company. So they might be releasing things and not making much about them, and then they release other things and make a big deal about them. And so if all those subjects they're making big deals about happen to be British, you kind of get that impression they're more interested in those than the others. But yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because there are a lot of British subjects that Airfix don't do. And I think a lot of people would like them to do. I mean, the Hampton is a good example, right? I really thought they might do a new tooled 172nd Hampton this year. I was very disappointed when they released the old one. I've got two of the old ones, and they are, well, rough. I think is the word. I mean, literally rough, because they got raised rivets. You could use them as a like file, but
shave with them. Yeah.
American car kits, are they still producing new kits, and how many per year?
I don't know. I don't know, David. There's a massive American car building, presence.
Yeah.
But I'm not really deeply entrenched in that. So, like Brian at Got Fuels, he would know. Yeah. He would know the answer to that. So, if there's anybody watching that's, really part of the U.S. So Round 2 Models, I think, is the largest distributor of American car kits. So I think they do AMT and MPC. Yeah. But new kits, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
New kits that tend to come out. I mean, Revell are quite active in making new, not just American, but a lot of their new stuff or kits with new parts are American. So I've sold quite a few in the shop of things like the like the Fast and the Furious Shelby.
Right.
The Camaro, is it the 396? That's a new one. So they are making them. What amazes me is how there were so many big American model companies in the early days. And it really is nothing now, in terms of the industry. We actually did this on, Moss and I talked about it on Beyond the Box, because the US, so the first styrene injection model company in the world was in the UK. It was Frog. But the hobby didn't really take off in the UK in the way it did in the US in the 40s and 50s. Primarily because the UK was kind of fucked after the war. And the US, huge GDP, much higher standard of living, and American model companies dominated that early, very early time. And then the Japanese got onto it, and they just occupied the market. In the European countries, it was really Revell and Airfix dominated. I think Airfix had something like 40% of the market at one time in Europe. And then the sort of combination, I guess, of Europe not really being a market for the Americans too much, and then the Japanese pushing out kind of killed a lot of the American companies. A lot of moving around, a lot of bankruptcies, a lot of people being rebought and stuff. And then in the 90s, you had the Europeans really, the whole breakup of the Soviet Union. You had all of the, as we said right at the beginning, the former Western Bloc countries, the Czechs, the Polish, Ukrainians now, all getting in. All those kind of entrepreneurs coming in, making new kits. I mean, to start with, they were making photo etch and detail sets and things.
Right. Aftermarket.
And then produced, kits. Companies like Edward, for instance, a good example. And really now Europe dominates the amount of kit manufacturers in the world.
Oh yeah.
Europe has more than anybody. China, of course, came in late 90s, early 2000s. And we're seeing, more of those come out. I mean, obviously there's the Hobby Boss Trumpeter I Love Kit Triumvirate.
Right.
Just hundreds of kits.
Sure.
But now you're also seeing things like, we've seen few people mention the Great Wall Hobby, Ryfield model, Panda model. There's a lot of these companies, Tacom, they're often quite niche, so they tend to be fairly monopurposed.
Right.
So if you look at Tacom, it's mainly, they do a couple of aircraft kits, but it's mainly military vehicles.
Right.
But what they do, they do pretty well. So American car kits are still being made, but just not in America. Actually, that brings me to one point I want to talk about tonight before I forget. Because I know John Alec is part of this, and I don't know if you have, John, as well. So this kit,
nice
Corvair, yeah,
the Corvair Monza GT,
an
actual nice-looking car, American car of the 60s. So this is going to be my group build for the Terry Thacker tribute.
Nice.
So for senior, for Hobby Barn. So these are the decals, the STS was made. Sorry about the reflection. There we go. So STS is based in the US. John Alec was very kind to arrange to get the shipment from them and this kit to me. So I'm going to be putting a video out tomorrow about this kit and why I chose it and kind of all that stuff. Unboxing it and having a look at it.
Nice.
This kit was tooled the year I was born. Not by this company, the original company. But the original company, this is a US company called Entex. I don't know why they chose an RAF roundel. And you can't see it here, but in the center of that red roundel is a smiley face. That is their logo. I don't know what that's.
Random.
It actually comes from the initials of the guys that started the company. But they used to be a toy model company, and they used to sell electronic games. And they went out of business in the 80s when computer games kind of killed them. But this is a retool of a kit called, a company called Edai, I think it is. It's a Japanese company that also went bust in the 80s. But actually went bust, reformed as a slightly different name, and then went bust again. So it's only ever tooled. So it's a Japanese kit. So made by the Japanese, only sold in Japan, or through a Japanese company and through an American company. So like rocking horse dung in the UK, which is why John Alec was very kind to help me out getting the kit.
Problem.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting little story. But it was designed. So a couple of things with Terry. I didn't know Terry personally. I only became aware of him, unfortunately, through him becoming chronically ill.
Right.
So it was only a couple of weeks, really, after I was aware of him that he died. But kind of because of his sort of love of the community and the community's love for him, for me to get involved, to try and get these to people in Europe. Hopefully everybody has either received them or has a notification of when they're coming. And actually do a group build, kit myself. So it's he was born in 1956.
Nice.
He was modeling since 1962. which was when the Corvair Monza was designed, because other kits from that time, or other cars from that time, were more square, right, John?
Yes.
Lots more.
Because you're doing, what is it? I don't know. Do you want to say, or what your group build car is?
Me, I did the. Oh gosh, what the heck? The 1965 Bonneville Sport Coupe. Yeah, that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah, and I bought that from my local hobby shop, and I bought that, gosh, a long time ago.
I have one question for you, John.
Yeah.
Why? It's such an ugly thing.
Yeah, it's. So I bought it at the same time as the Avanti. So I bought this the Avanti.
Yeah.
Because I just, like I said, I like to go into my local hobby shop like once a month and just I just buy stuff. I just don't know. Okay, that looks cool. Okay, that looks cool. So I built the Avanti first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a dog. I mean, I finished it. I just kept going through it. I made the video and everything, and I'm like, people don't want to see this. It's just terrible, It's I struggled so much, and then but that Bonneville it's a much better kit, and that 65 Bonneville was tooled in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, it needed a lot of cleanup, but
I bet
it ended up, working out.
What were the instructions like?
They couldn't be more basic.
Really basic.
Instructions to make pancakes.
Was it just one big sheet?
Complete. Yeah, exactly. And totally not telling you when you needed to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
one picture with a whole bunch of arrows.
Yeah, and not even including, so how to do the rear, drive axle and suspension stuff. Well, it wasn't even in the instructions.
This kit,
AMT.
The instructions refer to there's just a bit on the painting. It just says, refer to the box for painting details. It's just like, look, we gave you a picture of it. What more do you want?
We've done all the work.
It's wrong as well that no Monza GT, there was only one made, and it never looked like that. So, dear. So, Jim, American cars have a beauty and power aspect to them that will live on forever in the US.
Yeah, it's true.
I understand what you're saying, Jim. I just disagree. And that's the beauty of modeling, right? Is that, like, just like everything else in life, we get a choice, and I don't get to tell you what is beautiful in your eyes. If you want to do that, it's fine. You might think the Corvette looks horrible. It doesn't matter, right? We all get to do these things as we wish, as long as we respect each other for that. I'm not going to say, no, don't do an American car. Absolutely. If you want to make a brick, then go ahead.
Yeah, because my favorite is the Charger, 68 Charger.
Dodge Charger. Yeah.
I tell you what,
it is boxy. The front end is flat, the rear end is flat.
They all were back then.
Dream, right? But I love it. It's
I went to the US for a conference. I started work with a Canadian company based in Toronto, or Mississauga actually, and we were going to a conference in San Diego. I'll just give you this.
It's our most beautiful city.
If people haven't flown to the US and don't appreciate the size of the US, the flight from Toronto to San Diego took longer than the flight from London to Toronto. So yeah, and also this was November, right? So I had dressed for November in Toronto, which was actually very mild because it's on the same latitude as like Lyon in France, or Nice. No, Lyon, I think it is. So it's actually very mild. but I had packed for a Canadian winter. You know, I had like my coat and boots and everything. And because I'd been there for like 10 days and I'd been seeing Niagara Falls and got presents for the kids and stuff, I didn't have room to pack all that stuff, right? So I had to wear it. And then I got into San Diego and it was like 32 degrees, brilliant sunshine. I got off the plane, I'm just like,
yeah, it is paradise. San Diego is paradise.
Oh, it's my favorite Californian city. Yeah, I love I love California. The last time I was there, that was 2016, and it's changed a lot since then. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, kind of hell.
But yeah, no, but it was one of my most sort of iconic American experiences, and also most disappointing, because I got there and I was just like, we had a couple of days off at the weekend before, you know, we set up the conference. We had a couple of days off before the actual thing began. So I hired a Mustang, a convertible Mustang.
Nice.
You know, and I just like, you know, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow. So what am I going to do? I'm going to hire a convertible Mustang. And I'm going to drive it into the desert. You know, I went to La Jolla, see the seals. You know, and then drove out into the desert. Just, you know, live the American dream. But that Mustang was the most disappointing thing. It had this huge engine, but it was so heavy. You know, it's just like, and that's kind of the thing with muscle cars, right? It's just like they make all this noise and they have all this power, which kind of doesn't really go anywhere. Eventually, you get to speed going in a straight line, then you try and turn. If you're used to turning in a European car on European roads, it is a very different experience. Like turning the wheel, and it's like, is something going to happen?
Yeah, and the convention center.
Right?
It's right on the bay. Were you at the convention center in San Diego?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah,
it's huge, and it's just gorgeous. Yeah,
it was it's like a neuroscience conference thing.
Okay.
It was packed. You know, we were one of the exhibitors there. But I mean, the two Canadian girls that I was with were like, you know, I said, "What are you going to do with your time off?" And they were just like, "Oh, we're going to go to the mall and do some shopping." I'm like, "You're in San Diego, you know. It's like there are malls everywhere. Is that really what you're going to do?" And they were like, "Yeah." They're like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "You know, I'm going to hire a convertible Mustang and drive into the desert." And they were just like, "Oh, you British with your humor." And I'm like, "No, I've hired a convertible Mustang." Yeah, they didn't believe me until I turned up in the morning to give them a lift to do. You know, they had a couple of bits to do, and they were just like, yeah,
California desert, yeah,
exactly. It's like, you know, it's 30-odd degrees. It's like got the top down. It's just like going to drive by the ocean. You know,
Rob Halford wrote Desert Plains. You know, he still lives there. That's where he lives. It's his paradise, Rob Halford. And
if I
plains about, you know, coming out there and experiencing that area between, say, San Diego and Arizona. Yeah.
Well, the first time I went to the US, my ex-wife came over, just then my girlfriend. She came over. I'd gone out in October. She came out in December. We had Christmas there. Then we had a couple of weeks before I had to fly back. And because I was on a 3-month secondment kind of thing. And we hired a car, and basically we went down the Big Sur. Like we just like took the time, we went all the way down to San Diego. We drove out through Death Valley and Joshua Tree, up by the Sierra Nevadas, back to Yosemite, and then flying out through San Francisco. Just, we didn't know where we were going to stay. We just drove till we found a motel. You know, don't want to drive anymore. There's a motel here. We'll get that. It's fantastic. It's amazing. But yeah, that's my memories of California, and that's kind of how I want to preserve it. Rather than having shampoo locked up in, you know, your Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
Five-liter engine for the Mustang. How does it produce so few horsepower? I did not, unfortunately, visit the USS Midway. And in San Diego, no. It was a pretty tight schedule when I was there. No, I know, Jim. It's I kind of do get it, the kind of idea of muscle cars and kind of the appeal. It's so I can understand it. I just don't feel it. You know, for me, kind of that passion is really in kind of Japanese 90s sports cars, which I've owned quite a few. And I guess it's, you know, it's not just the same things that bind us, it's the difference, you know, vive la différence, as the French say.
Sure.
Like having that variety. If everybody made the same things, you know,
Yeah.
can you imagine going to a model show?
Boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, where it's just Spitfires. It's like, I mean, this is kind of why I don't, it's not I don't get special interest groups. It's just I'm a little bewildered by some special interest group. Like there is a Churchill SIG in the UK. They just do Churchill tanks. And it's like, I think the Churchill's quite interesting, you know?
Yeah. How many can you do, huh?
It was the ultimate embodiment of the infantry tank, you know, it trundled along at 4 miles an hour, you know, it was very heavily armored for the time, you know. Yeah, I get it.
But yeah.
But
once you do 1 or 2 or 10, then
yeah, it's just like only doing that. It's a bit like if you could only have one food for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you got to choose one. And, you know, whether you choose pizzas or burgers or whatever, it's like the first few are going to be good. And then it's just like, what am I having today? It's burger again.
Yeah.
Like,
it might be good now, but wait a little while, it won't be good.
It's like the ability to have a burger one day. And by the way, guys, you shouldn't eat just junk food, right? Even though it tastes good.
Yeah.
You should also eat vegetables.
So my wife tells me.
Hey, especially as a vegetarian.
Is beer a vegetable?
Well, yeah, she told me that.
Yeah, it's hops.
We were at a Chinese. So I was at a conference. This was 2019, and it's one of the more famous Chinese restaurants in San Francisco. And there was like 4 or 5 of us, and you know, we're all steak and potato guys, and so we're sitting there, you know, whatever, and we all ordered our food, and they came. And it was a plate of green beans. So it was like Chinese green beans.
Right.
And so, you know, she's like, who ordered the green beans? You know, and she's looking at me. She's looking at me. And I'm like, do I look like I eat? It got some chuckles from the people, you know, sitting. You were packed. You're literally, you know, in on the Food Network, there's, you know, cooking shows, and the daughter of the person that owns it, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. She's been on that cooking show a couple times. It's a pretty famous place. And you're just packed in like sardines. And I don't eat green beans.
Yeah, right.
Anyways. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll take a salad, but put it under a steak, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Vegetables. It's what my dinner eats for dinner. Anyway,
yeah,
but that's why she looks fantastic. And anyways,
one of Jim's dream cars is the Lotus Patrick McGowan drove in the Prisoner TV series. Excellent. That was a weird series. It's got such a cult following. You've never seen The Prisoner?
Never got into it on reruns. I think I tried watching it a couple times, but was never into The Prisoner. There's an Iron Maiden song where they sample called The Prisoner, and they sample from one of the Prisoner episodes, you know. I am not a number, I am a free man. You know?
That's it, yeah.
That was my introduction to that series, and then I tried watching it, but just didn't get into it.
Yeah, it's got a particular flavor to it, which is very kind of its time. But it's kind of like, it's got that same kind of cult following that Jerry Anderson shows have, like UFO. It is slightly off the wall.
Okay.
I saw one here that I've just missed. Yes. Beauty is in the eye of the beer holder. I fully agree.
Do you guys have beer goggles there? Is that it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
put my beer goggles on. Oh, man.
Have you ever seen the episode of The Simpsons where they go to Duff World? Or Duffland?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
With the beer goggles. It's like, and I think it's his Aunt Patty or Selma, isn't it? And he puts on these beer goggles. It's like, see the world through the eyes of a drunk. And
oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh,
she's
right,
just
Marge's sister. Yeah.
Oh, you're charming the pants off me.
Yeah.
He takes her, what do you say? I was like, take those stupid goggles off. It's just like, so true.
Old, man. That's so funny.
Yeah, The Simpsons back in the 90s, 2000s was good.
Yeah.
The best.
I just love the way they just openly kind of flip off Fox as well all the way through. It's just like, yeah, they're paying for us, but we hate them.
Yeah, it was a cash cow. And,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear. That is a not terribly unpopular opinion, actually. I think the Spitfire is one of those things that a lot of people are just like completely in love with, and a lot of people are just like, it's not quite a Marmite thing, but a lot of people are just like, oh God, I'm so sick of the Spitfire. It's just like, I'm kind of on the, in the middle. It's just like, it is a beautiful aircraft. But again, like John Eric, I've done the 1/24 scale Spitfire. I've done some 72nd scale Spitfires. I don't feel the need to do too many more, to be honest. Nothing wrong, as Gallo says, nothing wrong with a Spitfire. But you can have too much cake, right? See, I like the Hurricane too, especially the Mark IIs, with the cannon.
I think that is a more interesting plane, the Hurricane. And it was more widely... I think the Hurricane was more of a star during Battle of Britain than the Spitfire, right?
It's a bit like your steak and salad analogy. It's like Battle of Britain couldn't have been won without both of them, right? Because the Spitfires were the ones that went up and engaged the Messerschmitts, that kept the Messerschmitts off the Hurricanes, which even by that time was a bit dated. The Messerschmitt was a better fighter, arguably, at the time. But then the Hurricanes then got the job of shooting down the bombers, which is really the important bit. Yeah. The thing that always got me, actually, and it was kind of until, I guess I was in my 20s or so, when the idea of, maybe even 30s, but like the fighters, like the Spitfire, are defensive aircraft. You always think of them as like the interceptors, are like, oh, they're the sexy fighting things. It's like, yeah, but you only need them to defend yourself. They're not the ones going. The aggressive aircraft are the bombers. They're the ones going and destroying actual targets. Fighters are just there to make sure that happens. So, or to stop that happening. So it's like they're the shield. The bombers are the spear. And to me, that was always kind of backwards in my head. It's just like the bombers seemed like the big, slow, lumbering, like the cows of the Air Force. But they're not. They might be big and lumbering, but they are the aggressive things.
They pack a punch.
Yeah. Conan O'Brien was a writer in the early years of Simpsons. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
what was the name of his insult dog? What's the name of that? It's like a Rottweiler, and the Rottweiler smoked a cigar. It was
don't remember.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Somebody in chat might know. Something the insult dog. That guy's funny.
So I deserve more than usual credit for mentioning UFO. I know Gary is a big UFO fan, so. But John Parker was a company that released a UFO. Do you know, of all of the things that I wanted as a child, more than anything else, I had the Shadow Interceptor, the the Dinky or Corgi, I can't remember which. For some reason it was green, even though they were white in the show. Interceptor. I had oh God, what else did I have from that show? I can't remember, but the one thing I wanted that I couldn't get was the UFO, because that to me was the weird, the slightly scary thing about it.
Right.
I was watching it as an age that it wasn't designed for. It was before we moved to a second house, so I'd have probably been like 6 or 7 when I was watching UFO. Because my dad sort of just lumped it in with all of like the Jerry Anderson stuff, as well. So kind of all that, that sci-fi thing.
But I mean, their purple hair and good stuff.
I hate you, but you're off my Christmas card list after that.
And UFO had a diverse cast for the time.
Well, if you think about Star Trek as well, that was a very, egalitarian kind of show for the time. I'm sure now it would be bigoted and sexist, but
yeah, definitely.
And BS1W, you cannot say that. You're cancelled. So yeah.
People are going to show up and burn your house down.
So if anybody in the chat is wondering, this is not a woke show. I was watching a YouTube. So there's a guy called Metatron on YouTube. He's an Italian guy. I only realized that today because he said he wasn't a native English speaker. His English is perfect. But he was going through the University of Wellington, I think it is, in Canada, their guidelines for writing like dissertations and stuff in terms of, I can't remember what it was called, the usual sort of stuff, racial and ethnic directives or something. So apparently you can't use, so they had a list, obviously, as they always do now, of terms which are deemed to be offensive and what alternative you should use, right? So this isn't about being woke, not about being left wing or right wing. This is about insanity versus sanity, right? So foreigners, I tell you, no word of a lie, foreigners is an offensive word, apparently. And the terms and the thing that I don't get is the terms that were used alternatively aren't appropriate terms. Newcomers was one of them. What? Newcomers? That's not the same as foreigners. It doesn't mean the same at all. And Maria, my partner, is from Barcelona. She's Catalan, Spanish. And she said, well, I'm a foreigner. She said, I don't find it offensive. It's just what I am. In this country, I'm a foreigner. If you came to Spain, you would be a foreigner. It's not an offensive term.
Have you seen that new mini art kit? Or it's a group of figures they've got out that's got the guys sweeping the streets and the girls selling the newspapers and all that stuff?
No.
The title or the description of it is street workers. Here in this country, it means something entirely different.
well, technically correct. Yes.
Yes.
It doesn't translate across all cultures. No.
And my wife is Vietnamese, so. But yeah, if I went to Vietnam, I am a foreigner, right? I am a foreigner. That. Yeah. It describes me. I am foreign to that country. And I don't. When I go to, we're going to Mexico in 5 weeks. I'm a foreigner. When we go there, that's what I am. It's not offensive.
I use it all the time, and it does get me in trouble. So,
all right.
Obviously, she, not he, but they were great cars. I saw a thing on, I can't remember whether it was an article or it was a video. I think it was an article about Straker's car. The car he just used, to go home and stuff. I think it was like a custom built thing, and then they wanted to make it. Okay, it was really interesting. I'll tell you a car that I saw recently. Have you guys seen the new Fallout series?
No.
It's really good. So, have you ever played the Fallout games?
No.
Okay. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen the games. If you've played the games, there's lots of Easter eggs and stuff in there, but they capture the feel of that gaming world really well. And the whole premise of the game is set in an alternate timeline of America, where if you imagine atomic power in the 50s just carried on, and it became kind of like America grew from that. So it's all really like retro 50s styling, like everything's atomic powered, and you've got robots and this kind of thing. And then there's an atomic war with the commies, obviously.
Right.
It's the Reds. So it's like got that real 50s, 50s, early 60s vibe to it. But there's an actor in it he plays an actor in the show, and he drives this car. He goes to the studio and stuff, and it is the coolest thing. It's like it has a door which slides into the front of the car to get out. And I'm just like, I want that car. It's so cool.
Nice.
Interesting.
And obviously it's not CGI, it's a prop.
Right.
Made one, so it's just like, yeah, I want that. They should make that car in real life.
They need to license it.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't pass any safety test anywhere in the world now.
But you could probably sell a few model kits of it.
Sure.
Yeah, somebody mentioned Mobius. Mobius would be the who was that? That was a great comment. Mobius, Richard. If there was a sort of a UFO, Mobius would probably be the company to handle, right?
Yeah,
they do a lot of that kind of
I'll
stuff.
have to
Jerry Anderson.
Because the studio models which were about kind of this big. I saw one of them, really, really basic. But I think they can't even remember how they made them. I think they spoke to the guy who made them, and he's like, I can't remember how it. It's just they're really, really basic stuff. I've seen some 3D printed ones. I've thought about that as well, but yeah.
I saw a video the other day, and they were showing one of the models that was used in the Star Trek series of the Enterprise. It was probably about 10 feet long.
Yeah.
It was only finished on one side. They never filmed it from the other side, so there was no paint, no windows, no nothing on the other side.
Well, I suppose they just flipped it, right?
Yeah. They didn't need to see both sides at the same time, so they didn't put the effort into it.
I love the Fallout games, but don't have Prime. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, the series.
I'll have to look for it. I have Amazon Prime.
I have Amazon Prime as well. So
yeah, it's good. As I say, you don't have to have any of the background of the games to watch the show. It's self-explanatory, it's self-contained. But obviously, if you know the games, there are a lot of it captures that. It doesn't ruin any of the stuff like some franchises do. I think they did some Resident Evil films, which are just dreadful, surprisingly. But they seem to have been pretty faithful, which is surprising given the Rings of Power, which was terrible. Disgrace. Tolkien turning in his grave.
Correct.
And with that, we hit 10 o'clock, but there is a couple more. Do you remember PC terms? According to that, I was physically and vertically challenged. Remember playing No One Disabled? Yeah, political correctness, when it sort of started in the 80s, was for a good reason, right? The root of it, and I think the root of a lot of this stuff, are for good reasons. But I think in the 90s, that kind of evolved because PC stuff came on strong. then it tailed off as kind of culture gradually changed, and it became about really what Martin Luther King said. You know, it's about respecting people for their character, for the content of their character, and not for the color of their skin. And we've gone away from that now, to the point where the color of your skin is actually important, and we're talking about segregation again. So I don't get it. We've gone backwards, but yes, I do remember all of that. I am from the time where it was like, I don't care anything about you unless you're not an asshole. Right. If you're an asshole, I'll treat you like an asshole. If you're not, then we're good. We can go. And you know, if you're interested in the same things, we can do the same kind of things. We can hang out. You know, that's kind of what I've lived by, and it saw me pretty well until the last few years. But yeah, take care, Colin. Have a good one. And,
that Mobius 2001 Discovery is it is very expensive, Richard.
Yeah, some of the Mobius kits are a bit on the pricey side, aren't they?
They can be, yeah.
But anyway, guys, coming just after 10 o'clock.
Yep.
So I shall need to go and eat something now.
Sounds good.
Despite the fact this is 0 alcohol, I'm hungry.
I can imagine.
But Jeff, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks
John
for
Alec,
the invite.
pleasure as always.
Good to see you guys.
If you guys haven't checked out John and Jeff's channels, please do so. Saw the links earlier. And yeah, it's always difficult because it's always the wrong way round, isn't it? I have to look at which side the wall is so I know which hand to put up. But thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thank you for your questions and comments and snarky remarks, which are taken as they are meant. And thank you, guys. Hopefully see you next week. We'll probably have Jamie from Scale Modeling Cafe.
Cool.
Again, I'll put a link to his channel when he's up next time. But other than that, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend when it comes. And I'll see you on the next one.
Take care,
Good, guys.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.